Church on the Rock. We are so incredibly glad that you joined us here today, because today marks the start of Pastor Roger's brand new series, Why I Don't Want to Be a Christian Anymore. Now, throughout this series, we're going to be looking at a couple of misconceptions that surround the word Christian and Christianity by diving deep into the word to figure out what the root of Christian actually is. Now, if you would like to give to our ministries financially, you may easily do so by going to jesustherock.org and clicking on the giving button at the very top right-hand corner of the screen. Now, as we prepare for this message together, I pray that God stirs a life change into your heart so that it may overflow into the people around you.
What is a Christian? To me, when somebody says, I'm a Christian, I immediately think, what have you done or what do you do to show your Christianity?
Someone who perhaps now can come to church, sit there in Facebook, listen to the preacher, but really not hearing, because if they walk out the door, they don't know what he said. And now it's totally different than what it was originally meant to be. Something's not right about that. If somebody were to call me a Christian, I would be offended. You can call me a follower of Jesus. You can call me a radical. You can call me a nutcase. You call me anything. For God's sake, for the sake of Jesus, don't call me a Christian.
What does a Christian look like today? This is what I've noticed, and this is the philosophy that I've come to believe. Christians today separate themselves from the body of Christ to where they feel most comfortable.
A Christian is maybe someone that just goes to church on Sunday evening, Wednesday, and then back home.
You hear everything nowadays about Christians, Christian right. We have names. We have people who stand and protest at military people's funerals calling themselves Christians, saying that's something Christian to do. It's awful. That's what it is. It's awful.
I've seen what the Christians do. Christians wouldn't let me in the church one time because I was a black guy.
Most people, I feel like, have a negative perspective on what a Christian is. They've either been treated poorly by a Christian in the past, or I don't know, they've been looked down upon their whole lives by so-called Christ followers. And so they see Christians as people who go to church on Sunday and live their life during the week, and there's no real definition to most people.
Why I don't want to be a Christian anymore. Why I don't want to be a Christian anymore. Strange title, because it's a strange series. What is a Christian? I see if I'm going to make the statement that I don't want to be a Christian anymore, I have to first at least take a stab at defining what is a Christian. What is a Christian? And when I say the word Christian, what comes to mind? If I were to go around this room and ask each person, what is a Christian? I would probably get at least 10 or 12 different answers, different responses, all sort of moving in the same direction probably, but still different ways of looking at it. But that's in the church. If I were to walk outside the church and start talking to some of my unsaved friends and my unchurched friends and my unconnected friends, I can tell you I would get a whole lot of different answers. I would hear words like, when I hear the word Christian, I think judgmental. I think hypocritical, narrow-minded, cruel, mean, intolerant. Those are the type words you say, how do you know? Because I hear them. And I think what has me on this journey with this new series is the realization and the revelation that too often they're not wrong. That's what scares me, is that they're not wrong. One thing I've discovered in 28 years of ministry is that church people can not only be the most self-righteous people in the world, but they can be the meanest people on the planet. And my prayer is that this won't be just another sermon series. This will be a catalyst and a turning point for us as a church and more specifically, we as individuals. So what is a Christian? If I ask you, what is a policeman? You kind of get an image, at least in your mind, of what I'm talking about. What is a doctor? What is an auto mechanic? What is a fireman? They all bring certain images to mind. But what about the word Christian? What exactly is a Christian? Someone said, well, that means to be Christ-like. Okay. Well, that eliminates about 100% of us. Right there. Which one of us is really like Christ? So herein lies my dilemma. And this is what's keeping me up at night these days. I don't know how to describe a Christian anymore. I don't know how to define a Christian anymore. And I'm just not sure that I'm comfortable continuing to identify myself with a fraternity of people that I can't describe or define. And furthermore, what I do know about them, most of it I don't like. There, I said it. I don't like most Christians. I don't like the way they talk. I don't like the way they think. I don't like the way they judge people who don't profess to be Christians. I don't like the prejudice among Christians. I don't like the verbal and mental and emotional abuse that Christians dole out to people. I don't like it. And I think the primary reason I don't like the word Christian is it's too easy to hide behind. It's easy to hide. Let's face it, the word Christian has come to mean almost anything other than maybe satanic, or you got some dark Gothic or maybe, Buddhism or Hinduism or some religions out there. But other than that, everything is Christian. It just gets piled into this big thing of Christian. People actually still call this a Christian nation. And I think, really? Seriously? I mean, if this is what a Christian nation looks like, I'm just not sure I can call myself Christian anymore. We say we have Christian values. I think, do we? Do we even understand what Christian values really are? I got a post this week, and I think it was Dustin that sent this to me. It was a quote by Stephen Colbert. Listen to this. It says, if this is going to be a Christian nation that doesn't help the poor, either we've got to pretend that Jesus was just as selfish as we are, or we've got to acknowledge that he commanded us to love the poor and serve the needy without condition, and then admit that we just don't want to do it. Jesus was either as selfish as we are, or else Jesus commanded us to feed the poor, to take care of the needy, and just admit we don't want to do it. Just be honest. Christian. What exactly is a Christian? In Acts 11, verse number 26, it says, when he found them, he brought him back to Antioch. Both of them stayed there with the church for a full year, teaching large crowds of people. It was at Antioch that the believers were first called Christians. It was at Antioch that the believers were first called Christians. The term Christianity or Christian is only used 3 times in Scripture. Maybe that's one reason I'm a little apprehensive about calling myself Christian. Maybe I feel like it's overused. The label of Christian was first given to a group of followers of Christ as they entered the little village of Antioch. And the gospel was beginning to spread. and King Herod in Rome had actually burned down and destroyed much of his own city because the Christianity, this movement of Christ followers, was beginning to grow and beginning to spread. And he felt threatened, and he actually burned and destroyed much of his own city. And then he turned and he said, it was those Christians that did this. Those heretics, those rebels, those followers of Jesus, those Christians, they were the ones that did that. He accused them of burning down the city and said it was those Christ people, those Christians' fault. And the book of Acts says the disciples were first called Christians at Antioch. It was not a term of endearment. It was a scornful accusation. Followers of Jesus never referred to themselves as Christians. They were called Christians, but they never labeled themselves as Christians. Honestly, I think they would have felt a bit blasphemous to call themselves Christians. I think to them, it would be like me calling myself God. That's what Christian. I'm not worthy to be called Christian. They never called themselves Christians. They were called Christians in a scornful way. There was another term that was taken on by them as they were being converted to Christ. Of course, we just talked for 8 weeks about Jesus asking and inviting lost, unsaved, unchurched, unconnected people to follow him, and people became followers of Christ. That's what we've been talking about. There were many unbelievers who were followers of Christ. They were looking, they were investigating, and many times after they had been following for a while, they became believers. And so then another word began to emerge. When they followed him and they witnessed not only his miracles, but they witnessed his overwhelming love for people, how he ministered. And they would look and they would say, oh, how he loves them. And many times it was saying he was moved with compassion. When he worked a miracle, he was moved. And the disciples, they were seeing this and they were looking at it, watching this, and a new word began to emerge. And Jesus would soon refer to them, and eventually they would refer to themselves as disciples of Christ. Oh, see, that's a different animal. A disciple of Christ. What is a disciple of Christ? Turn to John's Gospel, chapter 13. Now we're talking about something different. What is a disciple of Christ? While Christianity is painted with a big, wide stroke that many things hide behind, many things fall into this category, disciple is a very thin line. Disciple basically means one thing and one thing only. A disciple is a student, an apprentice, a committed follower. A disciple will ask his master, how should I handle this? And however you say, that's how I'll handle it. That's what a disciple does. A disciple will ask his master, what would you do? And whatever you would do, that's what I want to do. I'm a disciple. A pastor told a story once of a gentleman that started visiting his church. And he had been coming for 4 or 5 weeks. And after about 4 or 5 weeks, one day he walks out and he shakes the pastor's hand and he says, Pastor, I just wanted to let you know my answer is yes. And the pastor said, God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. And he walked off. The pastor said, gosh, what did I ask that guy? And so next Sunday comes along, the guy comes back out. Great sermon, Pastor. Good day. Hey, and I just wanted to tell you, my answer is still yes. And Pastor said, good. God bless you. Thank you. And this went on for, week after week. And after about 5 or 6 weeks, you can only fake it so long. It's like when you come in contact with somebody and you don't know their name. You know, and you're like, hey, old buddy, hey, pal, friend, but at some point, if you're going to stay in contact, you got to just break it out and say, look, what's your name? I don't know. I just forgot your name. You just got to come clean. And the pastor decided, it's time for me to come clean. The guy came out, said the same thing, and pastor said, wait. I'm sorry. He said, I'm absent-minded sometime, and I know, and he said, you've been telling me. He said, did I ask you to do something for me, or did I ask you? Because you're telling me the answers. And the guy just kind of laughed. He said, no, pastor, you didn't ask me to do anything. I just wanted you to know that I've been coming here for quite a while now, and I feel like God has put me here, and I am making myself your disciple. And he said, so when the time comes, whatever you ask me to do, I just want you to know my answer is yes. That's a disciple that says, I am placing myself under you. I'm submitting myself to you. Whatever the question, the answer is yes. Do you see the difference there? I think it's because the term Christian just doesn't cover it anymore. It doesn't do it justice. It's too abstract. It's too broad. My heart is not just to be a Christian anymore. My heart's desire and prayer to God is to become his disciple. In fact, do you remember just before Jesus left this world, the last thing he told them was go into all the world and make disciples. Not Christians, make disciples. Make people who are students, who are apprentices, which now brings us to this defining moment. Even though this is just the introduction to the series, we find ourselves now at a pivot point. At a point where this sobering question, I think we have to begin asking ourselves as a body, as a church, as a nation, and certainly as individuals, am I a disciple of Jesus? Or am I just simply called a Christian? Everybody calls me a Christian. I call myself a Christian. Heck, we're all Christians. It's a Christian nation. We're a Christian church. I think we have to start asking this tough question. Am I a disciple of Christ? Or am I just called Christian? Is my answer to him yes? Here I am, Lord, send me. What would you do, Lord? That's what I'll do. How will you handle this, Lord? Because that's how I want to handle it. How would you treat them, Lord? Because that's how I want to treat them. That is not a Christian. That is a disciple. Am I a disciple, or am I just being called Christian? Can we really be satisfied just being called Christians? Well, maybe you sit down and say, heck, I don't know. I thought I was when I came in. I don't know. How do I tell? How do I tell if I've just been called Christian or if I'm a disciple? Well, fortunately, I think Jesus gives us the one defining difference in being his disciple and just being called Christian. I believe he answers that question for us, and it's his answer to that question that has me in this quandary. You're going to hear this verse of scripture until you're either sick of it or you've fallen completely in love with it. Over the next 5 weeks, this scripture is going to become monumental to us. Jesus gave us this one thing, and I believe if we had gotten this one thing right, not the 10 Commandments, not the law of Moses, not the epistles of Paul, not all of the history of the book of Acts, not all of these things, but if somehow we would have grasped this one statement of Jesus, I honestly believe we would live in a different world today. A world largely redeemed by the blood of Jesus. A world filled with disciples of Christ. If we had gotten this one thing right. You say, is there still hope for a nation? I doubt it. I don't know. For a church and for individuals, absolutely there's hope. Absolutely there's hope. Ecclesiastes says where there's life, there's hope. So we're breathing, there's hope. I don't know for the nation and the world, I don't know. I hope. John 13, verse 31, here it is. As soon as Judas left the room, Jesus said, the time has come for the Son of Man to enter into his glory, and God will be glorified because of him. And since God receives glory because of the Son, he will soon give glory to the Son. Dear children, I will be with you only a little longer. And as I told the Jewish leaders, you will search for me, but you can't come where I'm going. Listen, so now I'm giving you a new commandment. You would think it's time to perk up and listen. Wipe the surface clean. Guys, I'm giving you a new commandment. Love each other. That's not new. You've been saying that forever. We've heard that the prophets said that. No. Jesus said, wait. I'm not through. Love each other just as I have loved you. You should love each other. And your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciple. Period. If we had gotten this one right, just this one right, what a difference. Yeah, we're all Christians. We live in a Christian nation. We go to Christian churches. We have Christian weddings and Christian funerals, and we have Christian services every Sunday and every Wednesday. We listen to Christian music. We've got 24-hour-a-day Christian television. We've got Christian publications that we read. Heck, we've got Christian colleges. We've got Christian publications, Christian hospitals, Christian everything. We're all Christians. I get that. But when we peel back the veneer of all this Christianity, what do we find? Are we his disciples? Do we love one another the way he loves us? Is our answer to him yes? Have I submitted myself to his teachings and his examples? Am I striving to follow in my master's footsteps? I think this is a sobering question, church, we have to start asking. For our own sanity. I believe Jesus is coming again, and I don't think he's coming for Christians. I think he's coming for disciples. He said, I'm coming for a bride without spot or without wrinkle. I don't want to just be called Christian anymore. I want to be a disciple. So how do we achieve that? Well, we're going to try and unpack that dilemma over the next 5 weeks. But I can tell you it's going to revolve around this one very central truth. The only way we'll ever become his disciples is to lean in and begin to genuinely, from our hearts, love one another as he loved us. Now you say, well, that sounds all mushy and preachery, and that's just what I would expect a preacher to say at church, and this and that, but that's kind of weak. That's kind of, let me tell you something. Discipleship is not for the weak and the meek. Jesus hung on a cross as they spit on him and stoned him and speared him and crucified him and said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. That kind of love. No, it's not for the weak. when people begin to see this kind of love demonstrated among one another, they're going to know we are his disciples. Because here's my fear. Here's my fear is that we have so misrepresented Christ for so long by sticking his name on everything we do and calling it Christian. I can't think of anything that would make him more angry than to see things that are so un-Christ-like and ungodly, and we call it Christian. And he says, don't put my name on that. Do it if you want to do it, but don't put my name on it. Don't call it Christian when it's ungodly. It's un-Christ-like. And so I say to you, if you're unsaved, if you're unchurched, if you're unconnected, and you're listening to this, all I can say to you is please do not hold that against our Lord. It's not his fault. It's our fault. It's our fault for sticking a label of Christian on things that are just ungodly. Things like prejudice and pride and things. If we had gotten this one thing, there would have been no World War I and II, and certainly no Civil War, certainly no need for a civil rights movement, no need for any of this stuff if we had gotten this one thing right. And we missed the ball. We have willfully ignored the greatest command. They even asked Jesus one time, what is the greatest commandment? He says, no problem. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul. Number 2, they said, wait, we didn't ask for 2. He said, yeah, but I can't give you 1 without giving you 2. Number 2 is love your neighbor as yourself. It goes right along with number 1. He said, on these 2 commandments, you can hang all the law. All the law and all the prophets, everything. If you get these 2 right, you don't have to worry about the rest of them. These 2. Jesus said, a new commandment I'm giving you. This is it. It's not for the weak. All right, we're going to tie a knot in it right there. But I promise you don't want to miss the next 5 weeks as we're going to unfold and unpack this question of why I just don't want to be a Christian anymore.